largemouth bass. Almost paint them virtually almost the same way, except down here my markings are more like spots. On the largemouth I put them more like just vertical bars, you know, on the scales, but on here I put them more like spots. As you can see, they are a little bit more like spots. Some other subtle differences. On a spot, the depth between the spiny dorsal and the soft dorsal are not as distinct as they are, say, on a largemouth. There's more of a deeper gap right here, although you can't really tell on this. The overall body shape, you can usually tell a spotted bass, not always, but usually, the spotted bass is a little bit thicker and rounder. And the mouth, obviously the maxillary doesn't extend past the eye. It goes to the eye, but it doesn't extend past the eye. The eye on a spotted bass, occasionally it's red. I haven't ran into that with a largemouth, although I have heard of people saying they've run into largemouth with red eyes. But I have run into some spots with red eyes. They do hybridize with smallmouth, and I think they hybridize with largemouth too. So they can hybridize with both the other black bass species, the smallmouth or the largemouth. Okay. Bass has a tooth patch, although I have run into largemouth with a tooth patch too. But the spotted bass usually has the tooth patch. Generally, this stripe pattern down the side, it's a little bit distinct, a little bit of a distinct difference between a spot and a largemouth. Usually, on a spot, they tend to connect a little bit more. They tend to go up a little more. They're not as separated, and that's the general differences. This back here may be a little bit darker on the spot. This is a closed mouth. All my black bass, smallmouth, largemouth, or spot, I'll tend to use a little bird's end on the teeth. You know, those the little teeth that are on the outer extremity of the upper and lower mouth and inside the throat area. I tend to get a little bit of bird's end on those. Other than that, the coloration is basically the same. I may not put as much yellow down here on a spot as, say, I would on a largemouth. So those are just some of the subtle differences. So some are anatomical. Most of the differences are anatomical. But even then again, you can still make a mistake. It's real easy to do on a spot. This is optional, but I do it on my largemouth, and I don't always do it, but if you would rather, I sealed the fish first. The fish has already been sealed and dried. Now you can come back with a pencil and color in your marks, and that way when you get to painting your marks, you don't have to worry about whether they're looking right or not. You can do it with a pencil first, and do them to your liking. So now here again, the spotting them is a little bit different than on a largemouth. They seem like they connect a little more in general. Not at perfectly connection every time, but they tend to ride up, kind of like half diamonds, I guess you could say. And they can carry kind of a distinct look that's And and this is optional. You may not want to use a pencil. You might want to just get ready and get started to painting. I just do it just to kind of take some of the guesswork out of the painting aspect of it. You can try too hard and have too many little jagged edges coming out. You can try too hard to make the stripe, the colors, and actually make it look worse, which I have run into that before too. So just keep that in mind. And you can use a pencil on these. Get your good reference picture that shows the head stripes, and go ahead and put them in like you see them. That's another option you can do. And pretty much about like you would a largemouth. That's if you want to. You know, if you don't paint a lot of fish, or you hadn't done one in a while, it's a good security measure to make sure you line them up good and all that. Color's going to be white, and what we're going to do, I like to go ahead and whiten all the fins up also, but I'm going to whiten under the jaw, around this maxillary, a little bit up into the cheek. Right in here, especially on the skin mount, or when you use the tinning method, and on the skin mount, right in here you can get a lot of that dead orange look that shows through after, after, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. So I make sure I put white in these junction areas. I put enough white on there, and it's no big deal to me because, when you paint reproductions, you're painting on a white fish anyway, but I've learned just to go ahead and whiten up what you think, places where you think that orange dead look will kind of bleed through. Go ahead and make sure you put enough white on there. And if it's an open mouth, it'd be about right in here. It'd be a bad spot right in here. And you can see some old mounts that wouldn't look good, except when they use the tinning method, they didn't cover enough in here with enough paint to keep that dead orange look from showing through. So that's another option to remember when you use a tinning method, like I do on all my largemouth and my spots, and even my smallmouth. White, bass belly white will work. And what I want to do is get the lower jaw real good here. And there's a little dark section right here on the lower jaw. Don't worry about if you cover that up, because we're going to put it back in with our paint anyway. In other words, don't be afraid to use enough paint to cover up. Don't be afraid. Now right in here is a bad spot right there that, that old dead look will show through. Right here, the place where that dead orange look will show through. I just make sure I put enough white. Cover up any place where that dead orange look might seep through after about 10 years or so. And I really like to do that. And you can carry this white up into the, just lightly mist up in here. You don't have to cover up all your detail, but put a little bit of paint on there. And I'm going to readjust the fish. We're going to get all the fins also. Well, since we got the fish this way, it's convenient. Go ahead and whiten, especially for the camera, go ahead and whiten all your fins. That way you don't have to worry about a real dark, kind of dead looking fin. The thing about a tinning mount, a tinning method on a fish is awesome. But the drawbacks is when you let that dead orange show through either on your fins or on the cheeks or something. I've learned to maximize the potential of a tinning method to make a fish look real, while at the same time not letting the dead look on the fins and other areas where the paint may be thin to show through. In other words, you can do a tinning method and have an awesome looking fish without all that dead look to contend with. So I've learned to go ahead and just whiten the fins and other areas that need it. I don't have to worry about carding down here because it's going to be white anyway. So go ahead, I'm just whitening up the fins. Sometimes I'll leave the fins a little transparent and throw a bunch of pearl on there, and then when you put your other colors on, you're going to have an undertone of pearl, and that looks real good, especially on my walleye. I'll do it on the fins if I leave them clear, and I'll do it to that fin to let you show, just to show you what I'm talking about. But if you want, you can go ahead and paint it white also. But it's not carded, so maybe something to take advantage of. But now I'm going to go ahead and turn the fish on its side, or on its. Okay, a lot of times I'll just hold the fish, but for camera purposes, now there's already a lot of dead orange that's showing, and this white will cover that up on the belly real good. Cover that up real good. I don't, as far as how much of a coat to put, just enough. I guess a medium to medium heavy. What I like to do is go heavier at the bottom, and I try to control my spray. I don't want all that white to go above the stripe. I want the white to go to the stripe that we drew in, you know, if you wanted to. But you want to visualize, you want your paint to kind of stop right in here if you can. If you go into it, that's alright, because we're going to darken it up later. Just a little bit of reasonable control. I guess that's the right word. Now if you want, you can go ahead and paint this fin white, or for a more transparent look, leave it like it is, and we'll throw a bunch of pearl on it in a little bit. Different options. But I tend to do that to these too. It gives it the translucent look, and it's good for effects, I guess, for realism. But you can see the paint kind of going on, and you can see the marks that are there, they're getting lighter. See how I'll go right to the stripe, and I'm not really going above it. But even if you did, no big deal. Like I said, I have painted my fish solid white and then put all the marks in, but it's a little bit different. You lose out on a little bit of the realism. It's hard to replicate Mother Nature, so anytime you can use Mother Nature to your advantage when you're painting a fish, you're going to have more realistic results. Although a lot of times to the customer, they're not going to pay attention to stuff like that per se. A lot of times you got to be your own judge of how good you want to be. Sometimes to the customer, what's good enough may not be what's good enough to you personally. And that's what determines how good you're going to be, is not always the customer, but it's going to be you. Inevitably it's going to fall on your shoulders how good you want to be at something. And I guess that applies to a lot of other things as well. Not just painting fish, but the thing about it is you've got the power to control how good you're going to be at this. You don't have the power to control how much business you get necessarily, but you have the power to control how good you're going to be at it. And that's one of the allures, I think, to doing this, is nothing's there to tell you how good you are supposed to be, or how good you're not supposed to be, or whatever. So keep that in mind also. Okay, now we're going to go on to our next color. Make sure the belly's good and white. You don't want any of that deadness to show through. A lot of times I'll even apply maybe a little bit more paint than what I think I need to put on there, just for the fact that I know I'm using the tinting method, and that over time the paint will tend to fade a little. So me knowing that ahead of time, I'll tend to put a little bit heavier paint on just for the fading factor that's going to happen over the years. And so that's something else to keep in mind. And you may look close and think, well, I need to put more paint there. Now remember, you're putting pearl. Pearl covers up a lot too. But you may decide you want to white pearl. Silver pearl would work, but white pearl is what I'm going to use. Okay, now with your white pearl, you put it everywhere that you put your white. And it's pretty much that simple. You want a good pearly looking that pearl covers up a lot too. And I like to go right up to the stripe. And I don't care if the pearl, a little bit of it goes above the stripe. I'm more worried about the white than I am the pearl. And you can put the pearl on a little too heavy if you're not careful. And you might want to go over your fin bright yellow. And what we're going to do, we're going to get around the head a little bit. We're going to put a light misting over all the fins. And we're going to do a little angle spraying, just like we do on a largemouth. So let's get started. I've got a technique for painting my fish that I use for virtually all my fish. And okay, first I got my yellow, a bright yellow. Some people use yellow ochre, but I like bright yellow. And many other fish paint schedules call for bright yellow also, or cadmium yellow. But right here in the dip, there's a dip, just like a person's got it. Fish has got it too. The dip of the lip, I carry down the side. And I go along the top of the head. And I go around the eye. I go ahead and cover up all that epoxy work we've done. Even here on the lower lip, right here on the edge, you can put a little bit going down on both sides. And this cheek area, you can put a light color and have it sort of fade out the lower you go. And so I put a little bit even down there, just a hair, just a misting. You don't want to overpower everything. And I guess about a medium to medium light coat. You want the yellow there, because the yellow is an important color, to the lifelike look of your mount. So you definitely, you want it to show, but you don't want to overpower the rest of the fish. And we may have to do some touch-up work with some white even. But yeah, about like that, about a medium to medium light coat. And about the same with all the fins. About a medium light to medium coat. And I'm not afraid to use my yellow. About a medium coat's fine. Just to get some yellow. I'm not afraid to use it. Some people leave these bottom fins almost completely white. So let your own judgment come into account about how much yellow you want to put on. I'm not afraid to use it. Now if you do choose to use white on your bottom fins, just be ready to do some carding, to control your overspray. Now if I do use yellow, I mean, as I get towards the body, I tend to let the white take over. And cause if you see, a lot of times that's how it is on a fish. You don't necessarily have to do it, but just be careful with your overspray and stuff like that. And same with all your other pens. Yeah, I think I'm completely in there. I don't worry about it. Some people even angle spray with the yellow, but I let it be a base color for the pen because I'm going to go over it with so many other colors. And I'll let the yellow be kind of like a base color. So I usually don't angle spray with the yellow. That's what I'm getting at. If you're careful enough, a lot of times you can get away with not carding. But you have to really, if you shoot at a downward angle and you've got the right proximity, you can get away with not carding sometimes. But when in doubt, card. Okay, with your bright yellow, from an upward rear angle, now some people put a little yellow down in here, just straight on, when they do their largemouth, but I don't do it on my largemouth, and I don't do it on my smallmouth either, or my spots either. But from a rear angle, I try to yellow up all this brown that's on top. I let the yellow hit it, and any scales that kind of popped up that are a little clear, they're going to get yellow because of it. And this green, this yellow, when it hits this brown, it gives a little bit of a green color too. And as with anything, heavier on top, lighter as you go down. But remember, we got other colors going over this yellow. So make sure there's a healthy amount of yellow. And well, say for instance up in here, you can see where certain specific scales stand out more than others. That's what you want to achieve, because the yellow, when it hits it, when it hits the rear of the scale and on top of the scale even, what it does, it's going to bring out that scale and create some realism. That makes any sense. Okay, you can see from the rear I hit that. Now what I want to do, I want to angle spray and go down into the white. And what I mean by angle spray, just a certain amount of the spray is actually hitting the fish. The rest of it's going to go out into the air. But what does hit the fish, it makes rows of scales. Rows of scales will actually show up. It'll be bright, it'll look like bright lines, and those bright lines are made up from rows of scales. And then that's the start of how we do the bottom scaling defect. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, I got about bright enough up here. I want to make sure all the scales show up. I like that yellow. Hit from an extreme rear angle. What it does, it brings them scales up, makes them stand out. Some more so than others. About a medium heavy to about a medium heavy coat, I guess. Medium heavy or even heavy. You just want that yellow on there. You want your yellow kind of transparent, so you use a lot of lacquer thinner to thin your fish down. The more you hit at an angle, a reverse angle, the more you bring them scales out from the opposite way, and the more realistic it's going to look. Okay. Okay, now what I'm doing, I'm going down in lines. I'm going to let the spray go down like that. The spray goes down like that. And you're going to see rows of scales probably pop up. I may even pan in just a little. not be able to see it real good because of the lighting. Very good, maybe you will. I've got my yellow to thin down real good. And I don't want to go into the lower belly, but I want to hit extreme angle. Angle, what that does, that brings out them rows of scales, and the more extreme of an angle, the better off you're going to be. So I'm just working it like that. And the more realistic it's going to look, the more extreme of an angle you get it in. And it may take several passes to achieve the effect you're trying to get. But what you do, you want rows of yellow scales to pop up. Not scales, but rows of yellow. And they're going to pop up, and it's going to be from angle spraying that they're going to pop up. In other words, you were successful with your angle spraying, and it brought those scales up. Go all the way into the... You got to be careful because you hit it head on, your rows of scales are not going to appear. It's just going to look like a yellow blotch. So you got to be real careful how you want that stuff to hit. You want to hit the extreme rear of the scale with it. That's your goal. You may want to go up from the bottom like that. It may work better for you. Now, I don't know if you know it, but there's little rows of scales popping up. And that's what you're after. Now, I don't know if the camera picked it up, but you've got little rows of yellow. And the better you can do that, make them rows really kind of stick out, the better off your fish will look. And you can see through here you've got little rows of yellow. That's what you want. That's your effect. Okay, now I've got medium green, and I do just like I did on the yellow. I start right here on the tip of the nose, go up the top, go around that yellow circle on the eye, and that kind of further camouflages the thin your green down pretty good, your medium green, and here again you can I'll let, just like I do on an open mouth, I come around the side and let most of the paint hit this front lip, this front upper lip, and the rest of it goes back and hits in front of the maxillary. And it gives it a real good effect. And if the mouth was open, I'd even get here, there's a junction area between the front of the maxillary and the back of the lip, front lip. And I hit that and come down through here with the green. And just like I did with the yellow, I'd get here on the end. And sometimes I skip, just go ahead and go to the black green as far as the lip. But I guess to do it right, you can do it this way. Okay. That's about. Now I want to color this yellow. I don't want to get rid of the yellow, but I want a little bit of green in there. So I'll show you what I. Okay, now with my medium green, I like to put a little, just like I do on a largemouth, put a little bit on the fins. And here again, sometimes I don't even mess with it on the fins because well, my next color is going to be black green, and black green, I detail all my fins with it and everything. And sometimes I skip using the medium green on the fins. But never underestimate the importance of medium green on a big bass. A lot of times when they dry, they're real brown. And now remember, if we left the bottom of these fins white, I wouldn't have used much of any yellow, and definitely not much of any of this green either. So that's something to keep in mind. But since I did, I don't want to kill the yellow out, but I want to give a little bit of a green, you know, to make that limey green color, I guess. You don't want to kill out the yellow completely, but you can let black green do all this for you too. And it saves you one less color to have to worry about on the fins. Some people use black, and they don't even mess with the black-green aspect of it. But here again, there's got your options here. Now I definitely want the medium green up on top of the head. Kill everything out, you know, make everything too green. Although on a real big bass, a real, you know, one that dries real brown, you may want to use more green to camouflage that dead brown look. A lot of times the older and bigger a fish looks, the brown will show through so much that you don't want just a yellow and brown fish. So you want the green to really, the medium green to kind of camouflage some of that brown. And you may want to put it on heavier. Because on a bigger fish, you don't want just a brown and yellow fish is what I'm getting at. But you want a nice, see I'm putting this green on, I want to stick kind of above the, if possible, stick above that lateral line we put in. And basically just, I'm not even angle spraying it, but I'm kind of covering up that yellowness. You don't want to cover up all the yellow if you can keep from it. Usually about right in here, I'll go up, around in here, and about right in here we'll have kind of a yellow look. In other words, I don't kill all the yellow out with my green. See, I'm going over the yellow here on the cheek. And I didn't even let no angle spray of my green come down in here. What I'm doing, I'm setting up for the black green. So we'll keep that in mind. And I'll put enough yellow I try to cover that brown as much as possible. And I'll use a lot of yellow if I have to. Bad idea to clean your eyes off before your last color, because what that does, if you wait till the very last, you'll have a white ring around your eye, and you're not going to want to put more paint on your fish and possibly ruin your paint job and start over. So usually right after I put my white and my white pearl, I didn't do it this time, but usually right after your white and white pearl, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and clean your eye off. But at least I got it before I went to my last color. That way when I clean my eye off, then you're not going to have that white ring. The main thing is clean enough paint off as far back as you know the eye's going to show. And then you won't have to worry about a white ring showing up on your final paint job. Okay, now I've got black green, and this is black green, and this is what we're going to do all our detail with. So we definitely want to make sure that we do a good job. This is what pretty much what will make or break your fish is the detail work. You know, applying your colors correctly, and you may have to lower your pressure on your airbrush. Remember, we marked these in with a now this back here, it may tend to be a little darker on a Kentucky than on a largemouth. Maybe. Let's put it this way. I usually can tell the difference, but when they're real small, I've even messed them up. And so keep that in mind. It's real easy. So I'm just going over the marks that I put in with my pencil. And all the guesswork is kind of pretty much taken care of. Pretty much simple. As simple as that. Okay. Head work too while we're at it. You may want to go around this eye a little bit. There's a little area right here. I tend to darken that up too. And I probably tend to darken that area up more than most people do. That area that goes around the eye, and there's like a, I don't know what you call it, it's like a carapace type covering or something. You can't tell it much on a closed mouth, but on an open mouth fish you can see it. It's this little part right there. And I darken it up pretty good also. Of course, there's a part on the maxillary that you want to darken up. Right in here. All this lip stuff too. I let my angle spray on the front of my lip. Some of it hits the front of the lip. Some of it hits the back of the lip, and some of it hits the lip, and then some of it slides back and hits the front of the maxillary, which you can't tell on a closed mouth too much. But you can still dress the fish up. See how the paint kind of grew on the front of the maxillary? And there we are. And even some angle spray hit some of them scales right in there. It's correct. Right here on front of the lip. And right here on the lower jaw. Going over the same stuff that I went over with my yellow. And And you can't put it on a closed mouth, but right in between this the front of the maxillary and the upper lip, there's a gap there. I'll spray the top of that gap and then come down the side from the rear a lot of times. And I let that ride good enough. Okay, remember the lower jaw, there's that black comes in there, and then some of it comes down the bottom. Same with the other side. And you want to get the back too, just like you do the front. And you get around. Now remember, it's real easy to, if you're not careful, to make your bars look fake, make them too jagged. So I'd rather have more of a boxy, plain, foggy look than put too many jagged areas on your fish, which it's real easy to do. Don't get me wrong. Probably real easy to do, actually. Now on a spotted bass, they tend to go up more, and the streak, it seems like the spots are a little bit more connected in general. So, you see, I'm not getting carried away with putting a lot of jagged marks in there, and just a good clean mark is what I'm doing. Just like I do on largemouth. They tend to be more triangular-like. I haven't really incorporated that in good, but they do tend to be more triangular in shape. There's a definite difference, in other words. Make sure you look at your reference. It'll show you all these things. Okay, now just like on the largemouth, right above the lateral line I'll put a row of spots, space them out. Now on the largemouth, sometimes they're connected almost like another stripe. I mean, pretty good, but remember this is a spot. But I can see some of the natural marks, and if you see them, go ahead and re-darken them back up. And you can get real creative. If you see them, you can see dark spots. Look at a good reference, and you may be able to see them. I can see some spots. And you can make little triangles, little L's, or Just keep everything, you don't want to get carried away and make a giant spots up here. But if you have to, look at a picture reference and it'll show you how to do everything. In other words, keep everything within reason as far as your spotting. But you want a good looking fish. So you make little diamonds, roughly the shape of a diamond. You don't want a whole bunch of little spots. I mean, they do have kind of shady black areas, and so just the spots of your scales that are real bright yellow, maybe stay off of those. Put your marks in areas where the spots are kind of dark. You may have lost a scale or something. It's a good candidate for a good spot. But I will tend to stay off maybe some of the scales that are lifted up and real bright colored, because it may add a little bit to your fish. Maybe. So go ahead and even blow your lateral line on your, below your lateral line. You may put a spot here and there. Sometimes they kind of connect. They'll be in the same spot as where the upper spot is. Right above the lateral line. There may be a little bit of it below. So just be careful, and remember, you want the fish to look real, so everything you do makes a difference. Now remember, we're going to angle spray too and bring everything out. Now right in here you may want to put a spot or two. Break up some of the monotony, I guess you could say. And in all things, make sure you use a reference picture. Yeah, I can see some places back here that are already dark, so I'll just darken them back up. You want to make sure it's spotty. You don't want to cover the whole back with, you don't want to make giant spots that cover everything up. But remember, sometimes they got a lot of spotting to them. Don't know exactly what I'm trying to tell you, but I am saying this. It's easy to mess the fish up if you don't keep everything within reason. It's the right word to say. If you've done largemouth, I'm doing this the same way, and you should be able to see them. Don't go to the very back of the scale, you'll cover up the yellow. Remember, you hit the yellow at a rear, you don't want to cover up that yellow, so right in front of the yellow, about the middle of the scale, or about 2/3 of the way back, go ahead and put you a streak or a spot, whichever it is. On a spotted bass, they tend to be more spotty. Back of the base of the tail, and here, you don't want to, you can put just about a medium strength, I guess. Just enough to make a good spot. And of course I went all the way back to the base of the tail. And then I'll come up front again and do it again. I go the next row of scales down and do the same thing again. Now remember, as you get down towards the base, you want it to go lighter. You want to give the illusion that the belly is starting to get wider and the marks are fading out. So as you get towards the belly, you just want to fade out. Now usually back towards the tail, I may go the second row. But here again, you want everything to kind of fade out. And a lot of times I'll, about like that, a lot of times I'll go out so far and stop and get illusion, kind of help get illusion also. It's kind of fading out. Sometimes you may even have a lost scale somewhere, and you can take that out also. In other words, you can paint where the scale was, and kind of, that may help you out a little bit. But you just keep doing this till you get towards the bottom. As you get towards the belly, we want to try to make this I think that's low enough. Maybe a little bit right in here. That's good enough right there. Maybe a small couple spots up in here. Okay, now the most important step there is, and that's going to be the angle spray. That's where we're going to bring out the angle spray is going to add, it's going to make it come alive. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, now some of these spots up here, if you think it's a little too spotty, you can connect some of them spots You know, if you feel like it's a little too broken up or something, or you can leave well enough alone. Now what I'm going to do, you may want to adjust your airbrush. Now what I want to do, I want to bring out the scales on the side of the fish, and that includes the cheeks. We'll have see, when you hit everything at an angle, I don't want my overspray to get down in here per se. I mean, it's not going to hurt on largemouth especially. It's not going to hurt, but I tend to want to keep the bottom half as bright as possible, which I guess could be another characteristic of a spot. But I do, from an extreme frontal angle, let me readjust the fish. From the extreme frontal angle, and not really up from the top, I mean more like just from the front, you can really bring them scales out. The scales out, you can bring them out on the cheeks. Pardon me for getting in the way, but yeah, right here on the cheeks, that extreme frontal angle. On the gills, you might have to work with it. You might have to go from an upwards angle, but you want to. Your goal is to bring them scales out, and I'm not even going down into here. I'm staying up above the stripe. Although it wouldn't be wrong, you know, a couple passes. Bring out a little bit of detail. But I do kind of like to keep everything white. So all the scales are being brought out. I really like that. And it's about where I want it. Of course, I want the back of the darkest part. So I can see the scales materialize. When you put the paint on, you have to look close, but you can see it actually scales pop up. It looks like they materialize. And what that is that's that black green landing in front of the scale. And I'm putting a little bit down here just to bring up the scale. But I don't want to get carried away. Okay, I think I've got my fish as dark as I want it. Come back to the back. I don't want to cover up all my pretty markings and stuff that I've done on the back, but I want the very top of the back, I want it to be recognizable as being the darkest part of the fish. From an extreme frontal angle, I hit all my fins. Extreme frontal angle. See how that brings out the rays? Yeah, it's bringing out the rays real good. And that's actually good enough almost right there. Just the extreme frontal angle. If it looks good, leave it. That's a lot of times you can do too much sometimes and make a fish look worse. But we're going to go ahead and get all the other fins. Okay, same thing on the fin. Just an extreme angle. Hitting all the fins. You can go back on this side, you know, for the bottom of the fin. You can't get to it. Let a little bit of that darkness come down in here. That's okay. Okay, it's about good enough. Yep, that is good enough. Okay, now like you choose to do these fins the same way I do on the largemouth. A lot of times you can leave them white, just solid white, put a little black on them, let them go. But sometimes you can, if you do them this way, I got my black green. I just want to highlight my fins. And your bottom fins are going to be a little bit lighter than your top anyway, you know that. So, that's pretty much good enough. From the frontal angle, you just want to bring out detail to make the fin look real, and you kind of have to self-determine how much darkness you want to put in there. And the same with this one. You may have to turn your fish. But you just want to bring out the rays, however you got to do it. Okay, we'll pan out a little. Go in a circular motion like this, counterclockwise motion, and I come down in between the spines. I'll show you. Just the outer edge. I probably waste a lot of paint this way. You see how I've done that? And you can always go back and angle spray more. If you make the outer extremity too dark, you can angle spray more to bring everything together. You do the soft dorsal the same way. The very outer extremity, you want it to be darker and it kind of fade as it goes in. You know, you want it to look realistic. So you may have to angle spray a little bit to fade in the darkness, and you do the tail the same way. Very outer extremity. One. Right in between. And right here on this area right here probably gets most of the black right here in this corner, and then you kind of fade it as you go up towards the tail. You want to blemish it in so it matches. You want it to look like it fades as it goes towards the body. The same way on these. Right here, this lower third corner gets most of it. And you want to kind of bring everything together. Yeah, like so forth. And we've got one more fin, which is this one. And you get the upper third right here on the corner, just like I do on every fish in the perch family, a bluegill or smallmouth. It adds a good effect if you know, the outer extremity of some of these roughed up fins have a little bit of black on them. It kind of gives it a good effect. And it's kind of curled with the camera where you don't see it real good. But see, that's all one color, black-green, basically is what made this fish. Okay, I've still got my black-green. You can paint the back of your fins, like so forth. And a lot of customers, they might like it if you put a little time in the back, although they're not going to see the back. They might like it if you, you know, make it look like you care a little bit. Although I usually just paint the seam and let it ride like that. But some of them, they might really like it if you show that you care and, you know, make it look like you really care. And although they know that it's not going to be seen, when they show that you've done it, they might even like you better because they know you really tried. So keep that in mind. You might like it better. So use this to cover up the back of your fins. Any place where the seam might show a little. Don't forget the card. If you got to, the back is the darkest. But I didn't go so dark to cover up my marks. I mean, I certainly made it where they're a little bit harder to see, especially towards the back. As I got down the side, you can see some yellow creeping through above the right at the lateral line, even a little bit above the lateral line. And then as you get to the stripe, the darkness basically disappeared. And I ain't gonna spray just a hair, but you can't really notice it. Now on my largemouth especially, sometimes I'll angle spray, because sometimes that darkness, if you've seen a real fish, sometimes that darkness does come down in here, but I tend to keep things a little bit lighter. I want to keep it almost white on the spot, which I did, and it's a little bit yellow. But if you kept it more white below the stripe, that would have been correct, because a lot of your spots look just like that. Almost white where you can't even really see much yellow. I got a little carried away with the yellow, but I think you know what I mean. Anatomically, you can look and tell it's a spot, though. I do on all my black bass, whether it's a smallmouth or largemouth or a spot, I tend to put red in the fins. And not everybody does. Some people don't put any red in the fins. Some people put a minute amount. And let your judgment be the guide. Maybe even your particular fish. But I just really like to use red, and especially so on my smallmouth. It's another color. And anytime you can get more color in there to differentiate something, the better off you're going to be. Especially on something like a smallmouth, which basically shows just brown and yellow. So let your options be your guide here. And basically, I do the same thing as I would if I was on a largemouth. Not any difference. Except that the fact that you could leave these bottom fins solid white and go spray them with a little black, or black green, let them go. Which I have done on occasion. And it wouldn't be wrong if you did so. Okay. Get this fin too. That's about right there. Actually good enough already. Of course, if this is the open mouth, you do the gill on the inside. Now, if there's an open gill, but it's not. Bottom area right here, I tend to hit it a little bit. Just like that. And one more spot in between the anal fin and the tail fin, right along the tail, right here in this lower area below the stripe, I'll put a faint blushing of red. And Truth be known, I seen another fish that had that on it, and I've always done it ever since. And that's just the reason why I've done it. And if you, okay, now if this was an open mouth, you'd stick paper towel in there, about one piece of paper towel, and then you just go back here and paint with your airbrush, and make sure you get your gills good and red. And that bottom gill next to the body, make sure it's good and round where you put them out. Now when I'm doing this bottom spotting, which I could have done a better job, but that first row of scales right below your stripe, that's where you start putting your spots in. And then you fade out as you get towards the belly. You know, the last few ones you want to fade out. And you could tell, you know, whether you went down far enough with your row of spots or not. If you got a real empty white spot down here, then you want to bring your spots down a little bit farther to where you feel comfortable, and then let it ride. So that's what I do. Just some lacquer thinner on a Q-tip. Roll your Q-tip one time on a paper towel so it doesn't have too much moisture in it. You don't want it to drip. Then clean your eye off. And now you notice you don't have a white ring because you cleaned your eye off back when you had your white on your, right after you put your white in your white pearl, you went back and cleaned your eye off. And now, when you clean your eye off, all you're doing, you're cleaning off the black green, and you don't have a white ring. And it looks more realistic without a white ring, believe me. Now, I've got gloss top coat, and for a lot of people that's good enough. And you want to put some, you want to just set the paint. You don't want to put it on real heavy where it'll drip. But you want to put enough on there to set the paint. And a gloss gun comes in real handy. And I have on occasion, especially on bigger fish, actually pull the needle out about a half inch or so. And what you'll do, you'll get a full, strong, steady bead of gloss. There's a needle in the double action. You pull the needle back about a half inch, and the gloss comes out full blast. But you get a good coat of gloss on there before you know it. And I've been known to do that. But you can also set the paint, and you can go back with a second time with a heavier coat of this. Or you can go and use a different kind of gloss, like a polyurethane gloss, which I've done that too. But one thing I've noticed, on my largemouth especially, you would not believe how much better it looks if you use polyurethane gloss. And the polyurethane, it's not so shiny where it's going to be reflective and shimmer everything, but it'll give the fish depth and shine. Polyurethane is the right amount of gloss because it gives depth, and better than the gloss top coat by itself. And I've learned from experience. And so keep that in mind. Top coat, the customer would be happy with that. But I have noticed a significant difference using gloss top coat. You know, after you set the paint with the gloss top coat, go ahead and use something like polyurethane gloss. And even with a brush, you just have to watch out for drops. You'd be surprised how much depth your skin mount largemouth and your skin mount spots and smallmouths will look. I mean, they'll have much more depth and look realistic. And even better so than just plain gloss top coat by itself. So keep that in mind. And this is how I paint a spotted bass or a Kentucky bass. I'm going to show you a few things about some head work. And the white bass that we done was a closed mouth, but what if it's an open mouth? Well, here we got white, and what we usually do, you paint the lower jaw of the fish, you know, in the belly of the bass or whatever. And but like on all skin mounts, you definitely want to get rid of the orange that shows up. A lot of people on skin mounts, they'll leave these little dead orange spots or not put enough paint, and they'll show up later. So make sure you get enough white on there. You know, make sure you got the fish sealed good. And that way, even though it's a tinting method, the paint job will last for years because you took the time to cover up all the places that would show through after about 10 years. So keep that in mind. I'm going to show you some more head work. If the fish is an open mouth, you definitely want to use your off-white that you painted your belly with. You go ahead and whiten inside your fish, inside the head, or inside the mouth. And make sure it's good and white. And you can even paint the gills white. I've been known to do that. They show up better. They're gonna. If you're doing a skin mount, all you're going to worry about is you paint the whole fish white anyway. But if you're doing a skin mount, you just proceed up from the belly and paint the gills. That's pretty much what I do. And even paint up out here. And now this is just if I do a skin mount, I get all that dead orange off, right around here around the mouth. And I'm going to put that stuff back in anyway. It doesn't bother me a bit because I've done so many reproductions that it doesn't scare me or anything, I guess. And on the tinting method, I usually paint my fins white along with the belly. That's what I do. Now say you get everything all good and white. I'll show you what we do next. Okay, now say the fish that we just done was an open mouth. Well, here's what I do. I start right here in the dip of the nose, right here in the dip of the top lip, with whatever color it calls for. Okay, now here's something else I do. It's not after mine. Okay, now when I get, after I paint right here in the dip of the lip, a lot of times what I'll do, I'll let some of the spray hit the front of the lip and let whatever I need to let go back and hit the front of the mandible, and then let them both come together and meet right down here. So I'll show you again. Let the overspray go past some of the overspray go past that lip that I'm painting, and hit the front of the maxillary, come together and meet right there. Now right here on this nose bridge, I can put a little bit of paint, and then come down, let some of the paint hit the front of this maxillary, and in the back of the lip. I do that a lot. And then of course, I get the back of the maxillary, depending on the fish, it's usually right in here. Now I'll show you the bottom lip also needs your attention too. Some of your spray may come back and hit these scales, and it's good. It'll actually highlight the scales. Something else I'll show you, like make believe there's an eye in here. What I usually do is go right around the eye with my paint, and eventually the coffin work is always painted over, so you can't see the top. But that little carapace, or whatever you call it right there, I tend to paint it also kind of dark, just like around the repair work on my fish. And then I'll carry that darkness back here. Tend to carry about right here, right back here, and here's when I start to kind of worry about the back, because I don't want a dark band right down through there. But That's kind of the way I do it. Sometimes I'll leave this kind of clear up in here, but I'll show you the lower lip too. And this is if the fish we done was open mouth. Okay, something else I got to show you is the lower lip. Right here on the lower lip, I start right here in the front, kind of go up a ways, and I'll kind of go up a ways on this way. I'm coloring the outside of the lower lip. Now I'll also tip of this mouth, I'll go along the lower jawbone a little, and I should have had the fish up more to show you what I mean. But let your reference be your guide. You probably got a good reference. Bass have this. And about like that. And that's after you've already put your other colors. Usually the color that you darken your fish up with is the color you use for all this. Gills to paint. So I'll show you that. Okay, say the fish we had to do, we had one to paint the gills. Well, you always stick a paper towel in his mouth, at least one, depending on the size of the fish. What that does, that keeps the paint from coming up and ruining your interior of your mouth that's white. So now you can use your gill red for your gills and paint your gills up. Something else I'll show you too. Now your last gill is going to be touching up against your collarbone. Well, you want to make that good and smooth and uniform too. And so it looks right. And you can even do a better job than that. And then you make sure you paint your gills and turn the fish any way you can. If you can see it with your own eye, you should be able to get it with your airbrush and paint it red. Okay. Then you pull the paper towel out and you got a nice set of gills. Now there's also some grinders. I guess you could call them grinders or something like that. You can kind of see them on the outer edge. But I get those with a burnt sienna. All my black bass I do. And I get burnt sienna and get all my grinders. And there's some up in the roof of the mouth that